Welcome to the Feel for the Game College Basketball Podcast. This is episode one. I'm your host, Landon, and this is something that I'm going to be doing in addition to football. This will be posted weekly as well. I'm going to pick around 20 games this week that caught my attention in this initial week of college basketball. These will be games from November 3rd through November 9th. So let's go ahead and get into it. And just to preface, I'm going to say where the team is ranked preseason in their conference, what their record was a season ago, overall and in conference, and how they finished last year, and also provide a key player for each team and then make my pick. So the first game that I'm going to be talking about is James Madison traveling to Akron. James Madison had a solid year in a very jumbled Sun Belt conference a season ago. 20 and 12, 13 and 5. I believe there was like a five-way tie or something like that atop the Sun Belt at 13 and 5. It was crazy. James Madison shook out at number 2 in that. They finished up runner up in the conference tournament. Akron went 28 and 7 last year, 17 and 1 in the MAC. Did win the conference tournament and then was eliminated in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Akron expected to be solid again, and I actually noticed I made a mistake here. So the ranking I provided is their projected finish this year, not their finish from last year. So James Madison picked to finish second in the Sun Belt. Akron picked to finish first in the MAC game. So a key player for James Madison to look out for is Mark Freeman, and from Akron, Tavari Johnson. So Akron getting to host this game should be a better team than James Madison this year, but James Madison has had some solid years. But I do like Akron at home in this first matchup. Should be a good game though. So next one here we have preseason number 4 in the Missouri Valley, Bradley, traveling to number 8 preseason in the Atlantic 10, St. Bonaventure. So Bradley a season ago, 28 and 9, 15 and 5, and they made it to the NIT quarterfinals. St. Bonaventure a 22 and 12, 9 and 9 season, and they were eliminated in the first round of the NIT. Bradley with some high expectations this year. I know there's a good amount of people that think that they have a good chance to win the Missouri Valley Conference. St. Bonaventure, mixed signals with them on the year. They are hosting this one though, but I do like Bradley to get a nice road win to begin the year. Key players to look out for from Bradley, Jaquan Johnson, and St. Bonaventure, DeSante Bowen. This would be a big game, or this is a big game for either team, but I like Bradley to go out and get this one. Really exciting one here. Preseason number 1, High Point out of the Big South Conference, and preseason number 2, Furman out of the Southern Conference. So High Point, great season a year ago, 29 and 6, 14 and 2 with an NCAA tournament appearance, and then Furman 25 and 10, 11 and 7, and they lost in the first round of the NIT. So High Point's got a couple of players to watch out for, Rob Martin and Scotty Washington, and Furman brings back Cooper Bowser, who was a key contributor a season ago. This should be such a good game. Such a good game. High Point expected to be really good again. Really fun team last year. Furman with high expectations again, expected to be better than last year. I think Furman gets this one at home. Would be a huge win to kick off the year for them. And this could be a win for either team that they look back on if they make the NCAA tournament as a win that sparked a great season. So my next one here, this is the biggest game of opening night. Number 1 preseason in the SEC, Florida Gators versus number 4 in the Big 12 preseason, Arizona Wildcats. Florida 36 and 4 a season ago, 14 and 4 in the SEC national championship winner. And Arizona 24 and 13, 14 and 6 in the Big 12. And they made the Sweet 16. Florida lost some of their key guards from a season ago, but they do bring back Alex Condon. Arizona is Jaden Bradley. I believe this is a neutral site game in Las Vegas, but wish this could be an on-campus game. That'd be really fun. I'm not a big fan of the off-campus games in any sport. I'm going to take Florida here. It would be disrespectful to pick a reigning national champion to lose in their season opener. I know it's happened before, but I'm going to stick with Florida here. I do like what Arizona has this year. I think they'll be a good team, but I'm not going to pick against the defending national champs. So, last game of Monday night here. Number 3 preseason Troy Trojans out of the Sun Belt taking on number 3 Kent State out of the MAC. Troy last year 23 and 11, 13 and 5, and they did make the NCAA tournament, losing in the first round. Kent State 24 and 12, 11 and 7, losing in the NIT quarterfinals. So both these teams projected to be extremely similar in their conferences. These conferences have similar strength levels as well. I might give a slight edge to the MAC, and that's really why I'm going to pick Kent State to win this one at home in the season opener. Players to look out for: Miles Rigsby from Troy and Kent State, Delrico Gillespie. So moving on to some Tuesday games. Battle of a couple teams that underachieved last year. Number 5 preseason pick in the Conference USA, Louisiana Tech, versus number 7 preseason pick, Nevada, out of the Mountain West Conference. So Louisiana Tech 20-12, 9-9 a season ago. They made it to the Conference USA tournament quarterfinals. And Nevada made it to the Mountain West Conference quarterfinals. This game at Nevada, probably going to take them to win here. Overall strength of the Mountain West Conference is a decent bit stronger than the Conference USA. Louisiana Tech has Caden Cooper, it's one of their key players. Nevada has Tyler Rollison. I do think Nevada's going to have a better year this year. They disappointed last year. I believe they had a pretty good year the season before. If I'm remembering right, they had a pretty crushing loss in the NCAA tournament where they choked a big lead. That might have been another team though, but I think it was them. Louisiana Tech's been at the top of the Conference USA for the past several years, but had a down year last year. I think both teams will be better, but I think Nevada's just more talented. They get this one at home. Should be a good game though, but I like them to win this one. Big game here, also on Tuesday night. Number 2 in the preseason, UNC Asheville out of the Big South. Taking on number 5 preseason out of the American Wichita State. UNC Asheville 21-11, 11-5 last year, losing in the Big South semifinals, and Wichita State 19-15, 8-10. They lost in the first round of the NIT. And UNC Asheville has consistently been at the top of the Big South. Really fun team that can score the basketball. Wichita State has been kind of near the cellar of the American, but they have improved the last 2 years. Expected to take another step this year. They get this one at home. Should be a really fun game, but I do think Wichita State will get the win here. UNC Asheville has Poyaz Solomon. Hopefully, I pronounced that name, the last name or the first name correct. Wichita State has Kenyon Giles to watch out for. So another one here. Number 10 in the preseason SEC prediction, Texas versus number 1 Duke out of the ACC. Texas last year 19-16, 6-12 in the SEC. They lost in the first 4 of the NCAA tournament. And Duke Final Four appearance losing to Houston there. Texas has Tremon Mark. Duke has another freshman phenom in Cameron Boozer. I believe this is a neutral site. Yeah, this is a neutral site. Not exactly sure where this is being played. It doesn't really matter though. I'm going to take Duke here. I did forget to say their record a season ago 35-4, 19-1 in the ACC. But yeah, Duke has looked really good in some exhibitions this preseason. I know you can't put a ton of stock into exhibitions, but Cameron Boozer has looked really good. 24 points and 23 rebounds in an exhibition against Tennessee. Texas is going through some leadership change. They should be a solid team, but they're not Duke. I like Duke to win this one relatively easily, but I did just want to talk about it since it's two big brands going up against each other. So moving on to Friday, there really wasn't anything crazy from the Wednesday or Thursday games. But Friday we get number 3 in the preseason Coastal Athletic Association poll, Charleston Cougars, taking on preseason number 1 Conference USA Liberty Flames. So Charleston a season ago 24-9, 13-5. They lost in the CAA semis, and Liberty 28-7, 13-5 a season ago. They did make the NCAA tournament and lose in the first round. Liberty expected to be one of the best mid-major teams this year. Charleston also expected to be pretty solid. This game's at Liberty, though. Liberty always has some good shooters, and they have another one this year. Cade Matheny is back. Charleston has Colby Duggan, but Liberty at home expected to have a huge year. I do think they win this game, but it should be a really, really good one in the mid-major ranks. So next one, we have Troy on here again, taking on Furman, who we've already talked about as well. This game's at Furman. I did pick Furman to get that huge win over High Point, and I think they get another one here against Troy. So I'm predicting a really hot start for Furman to begin the year. Moving on to our next one, the number 1 pick in the preseason A10 conference, VCU Rams, taking on number 2 in the Mountain West, the Utah State. This one's at Utah State. VCU 28-7, 15-3 a season ago. They did lose in the first round. Utah State 26-8, 15-5, and they also lost in the first round. I do like VCU a lot this year. They brought in a pretty solid transfer class. Utah State's got Mason Falslab. That should be a key piece on that team. But I do like the home team here, Utah State, to get the win. Next game we're going to be talking about number 6 Kansas in the Big 12 preseason poll, traveling to number 3 in the ACC, UNC. Kansas a season ago, kind of a disappointing year, or not kind of a disappointing year, very disappointing year by their standards. 21-13, 11-9 in the Big 12, and a first round exit. UNC 23-14, 13-7. They also lost in the first round. I do believe they played a playing game though, and were able to win that one. But UNC hosting this one, I really don't have a lot of trust in this UNC team this year. I feel like they're being a little bit overrated in what's been a down ACC the past couple of years. Kansas, Not super sure about them, but that is a really good program. You've got to think they're going to respond at some point. I do think Kansas goes on the road and gets this win against UNC. Maybe raising some leadership questions at UNC, as this would not be a good way to start the season, especially with how these last couple years have gone down there. Key player for Kansas is Melvin Council Jr., transfer from St. Bonaventure, and UNC with Caleb Wilson. So moving on to the Saturday slate, there are some good ones in here. A lot of big names. Preseason number 3 in the SEC, Alabama taking on preseason number 1 in the Big East, St. John's. Alabama 28-9 season ago, 13-5, made it to the Elite Eight. St. John's 31-5, 18-2, and they lost in the second round. So this one's going to be at Madison Square Garden. Huge matchup. Alabama with LeBaron, Philon, very good player. St. John's, Zuby Ejiofor, absolute dog. This should be an absolute spectacle. This is as good as you could ask for a week 1 college basketball game. And with the home court advantage, I do like St. John's. Do get the win over Alabama here, but should be a very exciting game. Must watch TV there. Next up, we got preseason number 5 in the SEC. Arkansas taking on number 6 in the Big Ten. Michigan State. Arkansas a season ago, 22-14, 8-10, but they were able to make it to the Sweet 16. Michigan State, great season, 30-7, 17-3 with an Elite Eight appearance. So there's been a lot of questions about how Michigan State is going to be this year. Their roster's not quite as good as it was last year, but they do have Cohen Carr, who's expected to step up to be one of the team leaders this year, or the team leader this year. Arkansas with Trevon Brazile as one of their key players. This one I do have written down here at Michigan State. Let me actually double check that real quick and make sure that's true before I predict this one. Yeah, Arkansas is going to be going straight to Michigan State. Really tough way to start out your season. Really tough way. Arkansas has had some struggles early in the year these past few years, but I actually think this is going to be different. I like Arkansas to go and get a huge win to start off their year at Michigan State. Very close game. So moving on. Preseason number 3 in the West Coast Conference. San Francisco taking on number 2. Actually, number 2. No, that's not right. Number 1 preseason in the American Conference, Memphis. San Francisco 25-10 a year ago, 13-5. They lost in the NIT second round. Memphis 29-6, 16-2, and they lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Key player from San Francisco, Guillermo Diaz Graham, probably botched that pronunciation. He is a transfer from Pittsburgh. And Memphis with Doug McDaniel transferring from Kansas State. This one at Memphis, that's a really tough place to win at. There's been some questions about how good this Memphis Tigers roster is going to be this year compared to some of the last seasons. San Francisco, very consistent team in the West Coast Conference. Memphis went out there and won this game a season ago. I do think they win this one at home to sweep this home and home. Next game up, preseason number 13 in the SEC, Vanderbilt, traveling down to Orlando to take on number 14 preseason in the Big 12, UCF. Vanderbilt a season ago, 20-13, 8-10, lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And UCF 20-17, 7-13. They lost in the championship of the college basketball crown tournament. Vanderbilt brings back sharpshooter Tyler Nickel, and UCF brings in transfer Themis Folks from Milwaukee. This game's at UCF, as I said. UCF had a huge win to start off the year a season ago against A&M at home. That is not an easy environment to go and win in. They've taken down multiple really good teams to start off the year in that place. A lot of people thinking Vanderbilt is going to regress this year. I'm not so super sold on them regressing a whole ton. I still like some pieces on this squad, but I like UCF to win this one at home to begin the season. Really, just because of that home court advantage and how they performed at home in these type of games the past few years. So moving on. Preseason number 10 in the Sun Belt Conference. Marshall taking on preseason number 5 Toledo out of the MAC. Marshall 20-13 last year, 12-6. They lost in the Sun Belt quarterfinals. And Toledo 18-15, 10-8. They lost in the MAC semis. Key player for Marshall is Nate Martin, and a key player for Toledo is Kyler Vanderjaget. Hopefully, I pronounced that correct. Marshall was one of the teams near the top of a very jumbled up Sun Belt Conference standings there. A lot of teams at 13-5 and 12-6. They were a good team a season ago. Toledo has consistently been at the top of the MAC, but they kind of had a down season last year, going 18-15. They're usually competing for the NCAA tournament, and they just weren't really to that caliber a season ago. I do expect improvement from Toledo this year. Marshall, not super sure. I know they lost some key guys from a season ago. I do like Toledo to win this game on the opening Saturday of the season. Next one up here, we got preseason number 1 in the Southern Conference. Chattanooga taking on number 4 preseason. Out of the Mountain West, UNLV. So Chattanooga last year, 29-9, 15-3. They won the NIT championship. UNLV last year, 18-15, 11-9. They lost in the Mountain West quarterfinals. Chattanooga key player Jakari Johnson, and UNLV has Miles Che from UC Irvine. Yeah, this is a really tough matchup for both these teams starting out the year. Obviously, UNLV gets a little help from being able to host this game, also being in the stronger conference. I'm really torn between this one because usually the team that wins the NIT the next season ends up having a great year and making the tournament. That's just been a trend. It's kind of unfolded over the past handful of years. I know UNLV's getting to host this one, but they've had some early season struggles the last few years. I think Chattanooga goes on the road and gets a massive win to start their year. Absolutely huge win this would be for the Mocs. So moving on to Sunday, I have three games here. Preseason number 7 in the American North Texas taking on preseason number 5 in the Atlantic 10 Loyola Chicago. North Texas last year 27-9, 14-4. They lost in the NIT semifinals. Loyola Chicago 25-12, 12-6. They also lost in the NIT semifinals. North Texas has Will McClendon transferring in from San Jose State, and Loyola Chicago brings back Miles Rubin. This should be an absolutely great game, but lot of questions about these two teams and if they're going to be able to be as good as they were a season ago. Loyola Chicago has gained a ton of popularity stemming back from their couple of really good March Madness runs in the past. What is it, half a decade? Might have been longer ago. I think the Final Four one was maybe 7 years ago, but recent memory. They're a lot more known than North Texas. North Texas had a really, really good year last year, but they did lose some pieces from that squad. I like Loyola Chicago to defend the home court here and pick up a really good win to start off their season. Next game up on here, preseason number 4 in the Big East, Marquette taking on preseason number 10 in the Big Ten, Indiana. Marquette 23-11 last year, 13-7, and they lost in the first round. Indiana 19-13, 10-10. They lost in the second round of the Big Ten tournament, and they did not make the NCAA tournament. Marquette with a down season last year compared to what they've been doing. A lot of people are unsure exactly what they're going to be looking like heading into this year. I would say overall consensus is that they're going to be about the same, combining all of the things I've seen together. Indiana had a change of leadership with Coach DeVries coming in and bringing in his son Tucker, who should be a key player for this team. Chase Ross, a key player for Marquette. This should be a great game to watch on your Sunday instead of the NFL. Indiana getting to host it. That's one of the premier venues in college basketball. Expect a sold out arena, raucous crowd. They're going to be hyped up for their new team and new coach. They have been waiting to be back in the national spotlight. Not sure if this will be the year that they, break through and just have a great team. But go to start somewhere. This would be a great first step if they're able to win this game. Oh, and also for Marquette, this would be a statement win to prove that this program is not going down and that last year was just a little bit of a blip when compared to these other really good years. Having said all that, I want to take Indiana to get a huge win at home, defend the home court. Final game that I'll be discussing here really seemed like one of the lesser ones that I would be talking about. But both these teams have had good showings in exhibitions. Now, I know you can't put a ton of stock into exhibitions, but when you see different players having really good performances, you kind of can a little bit. This one's between preseason number 12 out of the SEC, Texas A&M, and preseason number 12 out of the Big 12, Oklahoma State. Texas A&M last year 23-11, 11-7. They lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma State 17-18, 7-13. They lost in the NIT quarterfinals. Not sure how they made it into the NIT with the losing record, but that's besides the point. Texas A&M has Pop Isaacs, who's jumped around a good bit. He's transferring from Creighton, and Oklahoma State with Anthony Roy from Green Bay. Texas A&M beat Arizona State in exhibition 95-88. Pretty good performance from Buckyball there. But Arizona State, not supposed to be a great team, so not a ton to draw from that one, but it is good to see them scoring 95 points. That's kind of performances that they're going to want to have this season. And Oklahoma State getting a good win over Auburn in overtime in one of their exhibition games. Oklahoma State had multiple players look really good. They also had a couple of key guys not play in this one, but I'm not going to put too much stock into those exhibition results. I do think they're not going to be quite the cellar dweller that they were last year. They're not going to have the floor they did last year to lose to some of the teams they did. Texas A&M inevitably is probably going to regress a little bit. I do believe in what Coach Bucky can do at Texas A&M. I think it'll work in the long run. Season one's always going to be tough. I will say though, in this transfer portal era, you can build teams to compete immediately. So we'll see if they're potentially under the radar team coming into this year. both of these teams really. I am going to go ahead and come out with a bold prediction here, though. Whoever wins this game, I think makes the tournament. I wouldn't say that's the boldest take for A&M at this time, but I do feel like if they lost this game, their odds would decrease a decent amount, or at least the public perception of A&M's tournament chances would decrease. Oklahoma State, they jump right into kind of that bubble talk if they could win that game. And it's funny talking about the bubble this far out, but you know what I mean. People will be saying Oklahoma State, oh, maybe that's a team that can make the tournament. And not a lot of people are saying that right now. I know some people are, the people that watch exhibitions and saw the beat Auburn, but a lot of the time the exhibitions end up meaning nothing. Oklahoma State getting to host this game, gosh, I'm really torn between who to pick here. If you're going off the exhibition games, you take Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State really needs a win right now in anything. Football has just been an utter disaster. I'm sure a lot of their fan base is really looking forward to basketball season and what they could be. With them having this one at home, I think they win. I'm going to take Oklahoma State to win. Hopefully, this doesn't come back and bite me and they look terrible and the exhibition was just a fluke. But it is. I don't care. I'm going to take them to win. So that's going to wrap up my game picks for season one of college basketball. Ended up picking 21 games here. Going through the season, I'll have better analysis as I'm able to watch some of these teams, watch players emerge, figure out kind of what they do. And I'm sure you noticed I did not do score predictions in this one. I really want to wait and see some of these teams play before I predict specific scores, kind of figure out where they tend to score from, how they defend, things like that. I thought about looking at some analytics, but with how much these rosters change year to year, there's really no point in looking at that and trying to predict games when there's been no games played yet. But week two, I will try to predict some scores when I do this again. The listening experience for this might be a little bit cooked because I have had some mistakes in this one. Gonna have to chop this up decent amount. It's kind of tough when you don't have much to go on and you're kind of just predicting the winner without too much basis. Really just having to base it off previous years. I plan on for now keeping this at really just game picks. Maybe in the future I'll add some other segments and stuff, but with covering football too, it's tough. It's tough to do all of this. So for basketball at the moment, probably just going to stick with picking games. If there's any games I left off and you'd like to know my thoughts about them, comment them down below and I will tell you kind of what I think about them. If your team wasn't mentioned in this video, I'm sorry. I didn't mention my team in this video because we don't really play a notable game this week. We play Mississippi State plays North Alabama. Not much to say about that one. I really just wanted to pick games that I think would be or will be competitive. I'll definitely be talking about State next week though because they play preseason top 15 Iowa State up in South Dakota. So that's going to be a huge game for them, for both teams there. They played an exhibition last night against Houston and came up short by 9 points, but they really let everybody play in their lineup pretty evenly. Not going to be how they're rolling out in the regular season, so not a bad performance from them. Really excited about Mississippi State this year, especially with the football woes of losing all these close games. But that's going to do it for episode one